Have you ever noticed how some people grow older, yet somehow stay energetic, sharp, and strong, while others feel tired all the time? Their joints stiffen, their memory fades, their body slowly stops feeling like itself, and most people assume that's just aging. But what if it isn't? What if the body after 50 is not actually breaking down, but missing the ancient foods humans relied on for thousands of years? Long before supplements and anti-aging products existed, traditional cultures already understood something powerful. Certain foods didn't just feed the body. They helped it repair itself. And the strange part is, many of these foods still exist today, hidden in simple kitchens, traditional recipes, and overlooked ingredients most people ignore completely. In this video, we'll explore 7 ancient foods that modern science now connects to lower inflammation, better digestion, stronger joints, sharper memory, and healthier aging after 50. And trust me, number 6 is one of the most underestimated healing foods on Earth. The truth is, your body is still trying to heal every single day. But healing becomes harder when it no longer receives the nutrients and compounds it evolved with for centuries. That's why these foods matter. Not because they're trendy, but because the human body still recognizes them. And sometimes, the most powerful solutions are not new discoveries at all. They're ancient habits the modern world forgot. Number 1, the ancient root that warms the entire body. For thousands of years, healers across Asia believed that many diseases begin when the body becomes cold. Not cold in temperature alone, but cold in circulation, cold in digestion, cold in energy. And strangely enough, modern science is beginning to understand exactly what they meant. Because one of the first systems that tends to slow down after 50 is circulation. Blood flow becomes weaker. Digestion becomes less efficient. Inflammation lingers longer inside the body. Even simple recovery starts taking more time. That's why ancient cultures turned to one powerful root again and again: ginger. Today, many people see ginger as nothing more than a tea flavor or a small kitchen ingredient. But historically, it was treated almost like medicine. In Ayurveda, ginger was called the universal remedy. In traditional Chinese medicine, it was used to stimulate life force energy throughout the body. Sailors carried it for nausea. Villages used it during cold seasons to protect the lungs and digestion. And now researchers have discovered that ginger contains active compounds called gingerols and shogaols, natural substances linked to reduced inflammation, improved circulation, digestive support, and even relief from joint discomfort. Some studies suggest ginger may help reduce inflammatory markers in ways surprisingly similar to certain pain medications, but without placing the same burden on the body when consumed naturally and consistently. And that matters after 50. Because aging is not only about getting older, it's often about accumulating silent inflammation year after year. That stiffness in the morning, that heavy feeling after meals, that sense that the body recovers slower than it used to. Sometimes the body isn't failing, sometimes it's inflamed. And ginger works in a beautifully simple way. It gently increases warmth and movement inside the body. Many people notice benefits simply by drinking fresh ginger tea in the morning. Others add grated ginger to soups, vegetables, or warm broths. Some combine ginger with lemon for digestion or use it after meals to reduce bloating and heaviness. Fresh ginger tends to have a brighter, sharper effect, while dried ginger feels deeper and warmer. But the real power of ginger may not come from one single use. It comes from consistency. Ancient cultures didn't rely on healing foods once a month. They built daily rituals around them. And sometimes healing begins exactly there, in the small things repeated every day. Because when the body finally feels supported instead of overwhelmed, it responds differently. But the next ancient food works in an entirely different way. Instead of warming the body, It feeds the invisible ecosystem inside you that controls immunity, inflammation, digestion, mood, and even healthy aging itself. Number 2. The fermented food your gut has been begging for. Most people think aging begins in the joints, or the skin, or the muscles. But many scientists now believe one of the biggest drivers of aging may actually begin in the gut. And ancient cultures somehow understood this long before microscopes ever existed. For centuries in Japan, families consumed small amounts of fermented foods almost every single day, not as a trend, not as a health hack, but as part of normal life. One of the most respected among them was miso, a simple fermented paste traditionally made from soybeans, salt, and koji culture. At first glance, it doesn't look impressive. It's not flashy, it's not expensive. And many people outside of traditional Asian cultures barely think about it at all. But inside the body, miso may be doing something extraordinary because fermentation transforms food. During this process, beneficial microorganisms help create compounds that support the gut microbiome, the vast ecosystem of bacteria living inside the digestive system. And this ecosystem influences far more than digestion. Modern research now connects gut health to inflammation, immunity, brain health, metabolism, mood regulation, and even cognitive aging. In other words, the condition of your gut may shape how old you feel. When the microbiome becomes damaged from years of processed foods, stress, medications, excess sugar, and chronic inflammation, the body often begins sending signals everywhere else: fatigue, brain fog, digestive discomfort, poor nutrient absorption, low immunity. And after 50, these effects tend to become much more noticeable. That's why fermented foods became so important historically. They helped replenish what modern lifestyles quietly destroy. Miso contains beneficial probiotics, enzymes, minerals, and fermentation compounds that may help support microbial diversity inside the gut. Some studies also suggest fermented foods can help regulate inflammatory responses and improve digestion efficiency over time. And what's fascinating is that traditional cultures rarely consumed massive amounts, just small daily portions. A warm bowl of miso soup, a comforting evening meal, a quiet ritual repeated for decades. That consistency matters, because healing foods often work more like gentle signals than instant miracles. If you decide to try miso, one important detail makes a huge difference. Avoid boiling it aggressively. High heat can damage many of the beneficial microorganisms created during fermentation. Traditionally, miso is stirred into warm, not violently boiling, water or broth near the end of cooking. Simple, ancient, effective, and maybe that's part of the deeper lesson here. The body does not always heal through extremes. Sometimes it heals through restoration, through rebuilding what has been missing for years. Because your immune system is listening to your gut every single day by churn, whether you realize it or not. And the next ancient food was once so valued in traditional cultures that people called it liquid gold, not because it was rare, but because of what it seemed to protect inside the aging human body. Number 3. The golden oil that protects the aging brain. There's a reason some of the longest living populations in the world have relied on the same traditional fat for thousands of years. And no, it wasn't modern vegetable oil. It was extra virgin olive oil. Today, many people still fear healthy fats. For decades, fat itself was blamed for aging, heart disease, and poor health, so millions replaced traditional oils with heavily processed alternatives that looked lighter and more modern. But something unexpected happened. Inflammation increased, metabolic problems exploded, and many people began feeling more tired, foggy, and unhealthy despite eating low-fat. Now researchers are re-examining what ancient Mediterranean cultures seem to understand all along. Not all fats damage the body. Some may actually protect it, especially the brain. Extra virgin olive oil contains powerful natural compounds called polyphenols, plant chemicals linked to reduced oxidative stress and inflammation inside the body. One of them, oleocanthal, has drawn scientific attention because of its anti-inflammatory effects that some researchers compare to certain pharmaceutical mechanisms. And after 50, this becomes incredibly important. Because aging is deeply connected to chronic inflammation and oxidative damage accumulating silently over time, not overnight, not dramatically, but gradually, the brain becomes more vulnerable, blood vessels stiffen, cells recover more slowly, and traditional Mediterranean communities consistently consumed olive oil daily, often drizzled over vegetables, beans, fish, breads, and fresh meals, not as a supplement, as a lifestyle. Researchers studying Mediterranean populations have repeatedly found associations between olive oil-rich diets and better cardiovascular health, cognitive protection, and healthier aging overall. Some evidence even suggests that diets rich in extra virgin olive oil may support memory and help reduce harmful inflammatory processes linked to neurodegenerative decline. And maybe that explains something many older people quietly notice. When the brain feels inflamed, life itself feels heavier. Mental fog, low motivation, forgetfulness, emotional exhaustion. Sometimes the issue isn't only aging, sometimes the brain is undernourished. That's why the quality of olive oil matters. Traditional extra virgin olive oil is minimally processed and rich in protective compounds. Highly refined oils often lose many of these benefits during industrial processing. The simplest way to use it is also the oldest. Drizzle it over real food, vegetables, soups, beans, salads, warm dishes. And unlike many cooking oils, extra virgin olive oil feels less like an industrial product and more like something alive, something the body recognizes. Because some foods do more than provide calories, they create protection. And perhaps that's why ancient cultures treated olive oil almost with reverence, not merely as food, but as part of a long life itself. But the next ancient healing food may be one of the most forgotten of all. A slow-cooked, mineral-rich tradition that generations once relied on to rebuild the body from the inside out. Number 4. The ancient mineral broth that rebuilds from within. There was a time when people wasted almost nothing. Bones were not thrown away. They were transformed, slowly simmered for hours, sometimes overnight, until the water itself became rich with minerals, collagen, amino acids, and deep nourishment. This was bone broth. And for generations, traditional cultures around the world viewed it as one of the most restorative foods a person could consume during weakness, aging, illness, or recovery. Today, many people see broth as something simple or old-fashioned. But modern science is uncovering why ancient people may have valued it so deeply. Because after 50, the body naturally begins losing collagen, muscle integrity, joint cushioning, and tissue elasticity. Recovery slows down, skin becomes thinner, joints feel stiffer. Digestion often becomes more sensitive, and one major reason is that the body's rebuilding capacity changes with age. Bone broth contains naturally occurring compounds like collagen peptides, glycine, proline, glutamine, and minerals that help support connective tissue, joints, skin, and the gut lining. Now, to be clear, bone broth is not magic, but it may provide the raw materials the body uses for repair, and that idea matters, because modern eating habits often focus heavily on stimulation, but not restoration. Quick meals, processed snacks, artificial flavors, constant consumption without true nourishment. Bone broth feels different. It's slow food. And maybe that's part of why the body responds to it so well. Researchers have explored how glycine and collagen-related compounds may support skin elasticity, joint function, gut integrity, and recovery processes, especially when consumed consistently as part of a nutrient-dense diet. Some people notice their digestion feels calmer, Others report less joint discomfort, healthier skin, or improved recovery after physical activity. But perhaps the deepest benefit is something harder to measure. Bone broth nourishes the body in a way modern food rarely does. Warm, mineral-rich, deeply grounding, it feels ancestral. And interestingly, nearly every traditional food culture had some version of it. In Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East, long-simmered broths were staples during winter, illness, postpartum recovery, and aging. Not because ancient people understood amino acid science, but because they observed what helped the body regain strength. If you want to incorporate bone broth into your routine, simplicity is enough. Slow-simmered homemade broth using bones, vegetables, herbs, and thyme remains one of the most traditional methods. Many people drink it warm, use it as a soup base, or consume it regularly during colder months. And consistency matters more than perfection, because the body rebuilds itself using what you repeatedly give it, day after day, meal after meal, year after year. And the next ancient food comes from somewhere completely different, not from the earth, but from the sea, a mineral-rich food so powerful that coastal cultures once considered it essential for vitality, metabolism, and long life. Number 5. The sea vegetable. That ancient cultures revered, if you walk through traditional coastal villages in Japan or Korea many decades ago, you would notice something unusual. People regularly consumed foods from the sea that most modern diets barely include anymore. Not fish alone, not seafood delicacies, but sea vegetables, simple forms of seaweed used in soups, broths, rice dishes, and daily meals. To many modern people, seaweed feels strange or unfamiliar, but in ancient coastal cultures, it was seen as deeply nourishing, especially for energy, vitality, and healthy aging. And now science is beginning to explain why. Because seaweed contains something modern diets are often missing: mineral density. The ocean naturally concentrates trace minerals that are increasingly depleted in modern soil and processed food systems. Sea vegetables can contain iodine, magnesium, calcium, potassium, iron, and unique antioxidant compounds, rarely found in land plants. And one mineral in particular becomes incredibly important after 50 iodine. Because the thyroid gland, the small butterfly-shaped gland in the neck, helps regulate metabolism, temperature, energy production, and even mental clarity. When thyroid function struggles, people often notice symptoms that sound strangely familiar: fatigue, weight changes, brain fog, dry skin, low motivation, feeling cold all the time. And while many factors influence thyroid health, iodine deficiency remains surprisingly common in some populations. Traditional seaweed consumption naturally helped support this system for generations. But seaweed offers more than iodine alone. Researchers have studied compounds like fucoxanthin and marine antioxidants for their potential roles in inflammation reduction, metabolic support, and cellular protection against oxidative stress. Some sea vegetables also contain fibers that may help nourish beneficial gut bacteria, linking ocean foods once again to digestion and immunity. And perhaps that's why ancient cultures treated the sea almost like a pharmacy, not because they understood biochemistry, but because they observed vitality. Older adults staying active, communities maintaining resilience, people aging with strength rather than rapid decline. Of course, balance matters. Seaweed is powerful, and excessive iodine intake is not ideal either. Small, consistent amounts tend to reflect how traditional cultures actually consumed it. A little added to soup, a sprinkle over rice, seaweed flakes mixed into meals, simple rituals repeated over decades, not extremes, consistency. And maybe that's the deeper pattern hidden inside almost every ancient healing tradition. The body responds best to steady nourishment, not constant overload, because healing rarely happens all at once. It happens quietly, cell by cell, system by system, and the next ancient food may surprise almost everyone watching this video. Tiny, dark, easy to ignore. Yet ancient warriors and healers once believed it helped preserve strength, bones, vitality, and resilience deep into old age. Number 6. The tiny seed that ancient warriors trusted. It's incredible how often the most powerful foods are also the smallest. Tiny seeds, tiny leaves, tiny roots. The kinds of things modern people overlook because they don't look dramatic enough to change a human body. But ancient cultures thought differently. In parts of Asia and the Middle East, black sesame seeds were associated with vitality, endurance, and long life for centuries. Traditional healers used them to support the bones, nourish the liver and kidneys, strengthen the body, and even preserve the appearance of hair during aging. And now researchers understand that these tiny seeds contain an impressive combination of nutrients linked to healthy aging: calcium, magnesium, iron, healthy fats, antioxidants, lignans, trace minerals, all packed into something most people could hold in the palm of their hand. After 50, this becomes especially meaningful because the body gradually becomes less efficient at maintaining bone density and mineral reserves. Many people begin experiencing weaker joints, reduced muscle recovery, thinning hair, fragile nails, or declining physical resilience. And while there is no single miracle food that stops aging, nutrient density matters enormously. Black sesame seeds contain plant compounds that researchers have studied for their antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potential. Their mineral profile may also help support bone strength and metabolic function when combined with an overall nourishing diet. But what makes them truly fascinating is how ancient cultures consumed them, not occasionally, not as a supplement trend, but as part of ordinary life, ground into pastes, mixed into soups, sprinkled over meals, blended into traditional desserts or tonics. In some traditional Chinese practices, black sesame was viewed almost as a longevity food, something that replenished the body slowly over time. And maybe that idea matters more than ever today, because modern culture is obsessed with instant transformation, fast fixes, extreme detoxes, aggressive interventions. But the human body often heals much more slowly than that. Real healing is repetitive. It's what you eat consistently, what you absorb consistently, what your cells receive every single day. And black sesame seeds are a perfect example of that quiet philosophy. Simple, dense, ancient, steady. Some people add them to oatmeal or smoothies. Others mix tahini into meals or sprinkle toasted sesame over vegetables and rice. Even small amounts can become meaningful when consumed regularly over years instead of days, because strength rarely disappears overnight, and it rarely returns overnight either. Sometimes it comes back quietly. Through small rituals, the body learns to trust again. And now we arrive at the final ancient healing food on this list. The one many researchers, healers, and traditional systems still consider one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory foods ever discovered. And once you understand what it actually does inside the body, you may never look at aging the same way again. Number 7. The ancient food that teaches the body how to heal again. For more than 4,000 years, this golden spice has been used in rituals, medicine, cooking, and healing traditions across India and parts of Asia, not simply as flavor, but as protection. Turmeric. Today, most people know turmeric as a trendy ingredient in teas or wellness drinks, but ancient Ayurvedic healers viewed it very differently. They believed turmeric helped purify the body, calm inflammation, support digestion, protect vitality, and restore internal balance over time. And now modern science has become deeply interested in one of its main active compounds, Curcumin. Because inflammation may be one of the single biggest accelerators of aging inside the human body. Not the kind you notice immediately after an injury, but silent, chronic inflammation. The kind that slowly affects the joints, the brain, the blood vessels, the digestive system, and even cellular aging itself. Researchers have studied curcumin for its potential anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, with some findings suggesting it may help support joint comfort, cognitive health, metabolic balance, and cellular protection against oxidative stress. Some scientists even refer to chronic inflammation as inflammaging, the slow inflammatory burden associated with aging itself, and that changes everything. Because it means aging is not only about time passing, it's also about what the body has been fighting internally for decades. Poor food, stress, inflammation, oxidative damage, sleep deprivation, nutrient depletion, the body carries all of it, and turmeric may help interrupt part of that cycle. But ancient cultures understood something else modern people often forget. Healing foods work best when combined wisely. Traditionally, turmeric was often consumed with black pepper and healthy fats because compounds in black pepper can dramatically improve curcumin absorption inside the body. That ancient combination is now supported by modern research, thousands of years later, and maybe that's the most fascinating part of all this. Ancient people did not have laboratories. Yet many of their food traditions aligned remarkably well with mechanisms science is only now beginning to explain. You can add turmeric to soups, warm milk, rice dishes, broths, teas, or golden milk recipes. Some people use fresh turmeric root, while others use dried powder consistently in cooking. But consistency matters far more than intensity. Because healing is rarely one dramatic moment, it's accumulation. And perhaps that is the greatest misunderstanding people have about the body after 50. The body is not weak, it is responsive to inflammation, responsive to nourishment, responsive to stress, responsive to daily habits repeated over years, which means the body can also respond to healing, slowly, quietly, consistently, and maybe the real secret of many long-living traditional cultures was never one miracle food at all. It was living in a way that continuously supported repair instead of constant damage. Because some foods do more than nourish the body, they remind the body how to survive.